But I am encouraged when I see young people getting involved in this movement, whether it's pro-life or religious freedom. They are our future. There were some young men passing around these handouts. They're good. They're just letting you know who the pro-life candidate is, comparing the two on pro-life issues. So be sure to take those and pass those out. Our next speaker is Dr. Gary George. He's a United States Air Force Colonel, retired. He's president of the Southwest Ohio Catholic Medical Association. He is head of the Miami Valley Hospital Radiology Department, and he's going to address the medical issues on the HHS mandate. Now, he won't tell you this. I also work for an organization, Elizabeth's New Life Center. We're a pro-life pregnancy center. Thank you. Thank you. All right. All right. Thank you. And what Gary wants, because we do ultrasounds, we're required to have those read by a radiologist. Now, for a pregnancy center, that could be very costly. Dr. Gary George does that for us, along with Bruce Gerhardt, who is one of his associates. So he doesn't just talk the talk, he walks it. And so let's hear from Gary.
I might have read her ultrasound. She looks a little different now. Okay, well, welcome and thanks for coming out to the rally. We're privileged to be part of this third Stand Up for Religious Freedom rally here and around the country. These rallies really increase public awareness, although there's still a long ways to go and a lot of work to do. Election Day, November 6th, is a day to maybe do some more of that work, for sure. I just can't help but repeating one sentence I heard recently on a YouTube video that went viral. This is just one sentence from a doctor. Her name is Barbara Bellar. And how many of you saw this video, this doctor talking about Obamacare? Okay, good. So this will be new to some of you. So this is one sentence. I got to catch my breath on this. So, quote, "We are going to be gifted with a health care plan that we are forced to purchase and fined if we don't, which reportedly covers 10 million more people without adding a single new doctor, but provides for 16,000 new IRS agents, written by a committee whose chairman doesn't understand it, passed by a Congress that didn't read it, but exempted themselves from it anyway, and signed by a president who smokes, with funding administered by a Treasury chief who didn't pay his taxes, for which we will be taxed for 4 years before any benefits take effect, by a government which has bankrupted Social Security and Medicare, all to be overseen by a Surgeon General who is obese and financed by a country that is broke. So what the blank could possibly go wrong?" That's pretty much the summary of Obamacare at this point. On the mandate that we're here today to talk about, the administration continues to forge ahead with its mandate. Administration lawyers have actually argued in court. Okay, in response to the freedom rallies and increased public awareness, President Obama went on television earlier this summer and stated that, quote, "It's not fair for Catholic hospitals or universities to assert their right to religious liberty against this mandate," end quote. His administration lawyers have argued in court this summer that people give up their right to religious liberty when they start a business. They stated, quote, "Having chosen the secular for-profit path, a family business may not impose its owner's religious beliefs on its employees by failing to pay for access to contraceptives and abortion-inducing drugs," end quote. This was in regards to a case of Hercules Industries. I don't know if you've heard about it. This is a Denver-based heating, ventilation, and air conditioning manufacturer that employs 300 workers and is owned by the Newland family. The Newlands argue that the mandate forces them to violate their deeply held religious beliefs and unconstitutionally coerces them to violate their Christian beliefs under threat of fines and penalties. They argued that nothing in the Constitution or Supreme Court decisions requires that families forfeit their religious liberty when they try to earn a living. It sort of makes sense to me, I think. The Colorado District Judge in this case agreed and stated that the government's arguments are countered and outweighed by the public interest in the free exercise of religion. Of course, this will go on in the court system, and this is why it's so important that we have a president who appoints, good Supreme Court justices, because that's where it will eventually end up. We know that this is really not imposing a religious belief on an employee. This is actually the government forcing an employer to violate their deeply held convictions and to violate their conscience. If the government really wanted to help out with health care, why don't they do something like maybe provide free dental floss or dental cleanings or something like that? But they of course won't do that, because it's the Catholic Church and evangelical Christians who are standing in the way and voicing opposition to their liberal social agenda, to the redefinition of what marriage and family is, to their violations of the sanctity of life. Respect for life, marriage, and religious liberty are the foundation of a socially and economically stable society. These fundamental principles are really just non-negotiable. What this administration does not seem to realize is that freedom of religion that is not something doled out by the president. What this administration does not seem to realize is that freedom of religion is not something that's doled out by Kathleen Sebelius or any other bureaucrat. Freedom of religion is our God-given natural right. It doesn't come from an executive order. It underpinned the founding of our great nation. It was guaranteed and protected by our founding fathers. Freedom of religion is the right upon which all the other rights depend. On January 20th, 2012, the Obama administration unilaterally declared that a bunch of federal bureaucrats would guide the church and determine what was or wasn't worthy of belief and practice. Never before in American history has the federal government tried to coerce religious institutions into committing acts that these institutions teach are immoral. This is not some accidental violation of our religious freedom. This administration has made a series of very deliberate steps. There have been multiple assaults on individual health care rights and providers' rights of conscience. Pharmacists, doctors, and nurses have had to resort to the courts to protect their liberties. Recently, the Obama administration even tried to tell an evangelical Lutheran church outside of Chicago who they could hire and fire as a minister. That went all the way to the Supreme Court, and in a ringing rebuke of the Obama administration's cramped view of a church's freedom, all 9 justices, including the 2 Obama appointees, rejected those arguments as extreme, remarkable, and untenable. Do you see that this is a multi-pronged attack on our religious freedom? Of course, these folks want to pretend that this is about women's rights, about access to sterilization, abortifacients, and birth control. This is not about birth control. This is about a government that is out of control. Back in late 2008, President-elect Obama assured Christian leaders that the conscience clause would not be disturbed. 2 years ago, the president argued that Obamacare would take care of the poor, and again assured Christian leaders that conscience would not be violated in hopes of their support for the law. This year, we've seen a total reversal and full-scale violation of those promises by the HHS mandate. The administration has offered a smoke and mirrors set of narrow exemptions and an accommodation to the mandate. And what is the olive branch that the administration is tendering? They will allow us 1 extra year to buckle under and renounce our religious beliefs. HHS is essentially saying that we respect your religious views so much, we'll give you 1 extra year to abandon them. Guess what, Mr. Obama? Religious principles have no expiration date. According to the Beckett Fund for Religious Liberty, not even the ministry of Jesus Christ himself would qualify under their exemptions. A Christian soup kitchen would not qualify because they give food and other things to people that are not Christians. During the vice presidential debate, which I hope everybody watched it. It was pretty good. Paul Ryan referred to the HHS mandate as an assault on the religious liberties of this nation, as a violation of our very first freedom, the freedom of religion. Vice President Biden smirked for about the 40th time, rolled his eyes, and shouted back that, quote, "With regard to the assault on the Catholic Church, let me make it absolutely clear. No religious institution, Catholic or otherwise, has to refer for contraception, pay for contraception. None has to be a vehicle to get contraception in any insurance policy they provide. That is a fact. That is a fact." End quote. Well, Mr. Biden, what that is a bunch of malarkey. The very next morning, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, and this has to be one of the quickest responses I've ever seen, released a statement that declared, quote, "This is not a fact. The HHS mandate contains a narrow 4-part exemption for certain religious employers, which was made final in February, and does not extend to Catholic social services, hospitals, or any other religious charity that offers its services to all, regardless of the faith of those served." President Obama has continued to divert massive amounts of healthcare dollars to Planned Parenthood since they supposedly provide women's services like mammography. All right? I mean, I'm all for mammograms. That's you know, fighting breast cancer is one of the major parts of my practice as a physician. But do you know how many mammograms Planned Parenthood actually did last year? Zero. Absolutely none, as Steve highlighted before. I suppose the president knows that. Maybe he doesn't. But what they do provide, of course, is the largest number of abortions any organization in the country, and they get an ever-increasing part of our health care dollar to do so. That just cannot continue. Our demands are really quite simple. We must be allowed to continue to take care of the hungry, the sick, and the most vulnerable in society in accordance with our faith and religious beliefs. That is what we as Christians have always done, and that's all we're asking for. That is why we demand that the conscience clause must be protected and the mandate overturned. Thank you, and God bless America.